Hey guys, and welcome to another video. So today I'm going to be reviewing Second Chance Serenity by Jessica Ashley. Guys, I am like breezing through this series. So I started it the day before yesterday, my time, because it was like early in the AM, so like Goodreads and all that stuff's going to show it was like the next day, but I just finished it literally seconds ago. This is the third book in her Coastal Hope series. I've reviewed the first two books, so you can check those out here. I'll have them as cards. But let's get into this. So, basically, so far, it takes place in the small town, Hope Springs. I think it's called Hope Springs. And I'm really enjoying the, like, side characters that keep coming back because they're, like, members of the town. And the army guys, the three main ones, Lance, Elijah, and Michael, formed this, like, security group. And they meet their girls and have to be their bodyguards and stuff. In this premise, Michael is the third and final guy that's a part of the original team. So I'm interested on the next two and what they're going to be about. But anyways, Michael... he broke his girl's heart in high school. They were high school sweethearts. They were going to get married after graduation, but he left her without saying a word, and he joined the army, and it broke her heart. He's been back in town for 5 years now after he got out of the army, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. So this is a second chance romance. And after the ending of the last one with Elijah's story, which was not Pages of Promise, Seeking Peace or something, Searching for Peace. After the ending of that one was really disappointing for me. I wasn't as invested or interested in these characters because it didn't sound as interesting. But when I started reading, I got into it. I was on page 4 the night I officially started it, which was actually not the night before last, but the day before that. It was literally like the first page, technically page 4. But not last night, but the night before that, I started reading. And I got to page like 160, 164 or something like that. And just because basically the first night when I sat down to start reading it in a longer time, I went from page 4 to page 164. It was so good. The emotions of between these two is like the strongest romance of the series so far, because he hurt her and she can't forgive him. And yet, like, by not forgiving him and he's trying to be there for her, it like hurts him. And so, but it's just a lot of feels. Like I see both sides to their relationship, and like they're hurting each other. And it's just all these feels, but it has a theme of like when, as like Christians, we're supposed to forgive people, but sometimes it's not that easy. And sometimes it's really, really hard. And I find that really relatable because I have issues with holding grudges and stuff with certain big circumstances. So I just really loved it. On top of the suspense plot line in this one got even more intense. And I remember one of my critiques was the last one was I was able to start seeing the pattern in this author, Jessica Ashley, like the patterns in her suspense plot lines. And then romance books sometimes have a pattern to them in general, regardless of genre, because that, you know, standalone romances typically follow the same kind of thing because that's what readers like. So I remember saying that this book's going to have to change things up in order to keep me reading the series. And it did. Oh boy, it did. At least the middle section. So the scenarios were different. It was definitely more intense, and it was interestingly different because she didn't want anything to do with Michael. So when she gets in danger, it was like his team, and he couldn't really be there for her. And then the middle section, there's this whole sequence and series of chapters in the middle that completely took me by surprise. And I remember, I'm not going to spoil anything, but they go to this gala event, and he's there for her bodyguard because he's better like on the ground. So they kind of convinced her to let him go. And at that point, she started reading his letters and kind of did a notebook thing where it was like she was reading the letters that he wrote her overseas because she never read them before. And now she's kind of getting his perspective. And the reasons why he left her were actually really intense and really good. I would have taken it a little further than the author did, but I wasn't expecting that. So it was like really, really nice change up for things, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, so they're at the gala event, and without spoilers, basically a suspenseful moment happened, which I was expecting because this author, she still has the pacing where you have moments like romantic moments, and then like suspense, and then romance, and then suspense. And it really keeps the pacing really good, because like right when it gets a little slow, it speeds up, gets suspenseful or intense in some way or form, but then it gives you time for the romance again, and it's really goodly paced. And this one got back to that. The last one focused too much on the romance and got really slow, whereas this one I feel like perfected that and got better at while the romance was still the focus and was really emotional, the suspense was also equally good. So anyways, they're at this gala event, something happened, and I expected it, like, you know, it went like it did, and I expected it to kind of wind down a little bit, and then something else happened that completely blew my mind, and then that led into something else that happened that blew my mind, and I literally sat up and I was like, what? And I was freaking out, and then something else happened that led into the next sequence of events that lasted for several chapters. I was not expecting that at all, and let me say, it's right up my alley, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. So good. And because of that, afterwards, so that I read all that last night, and so tonight I was coming in reading the aftermath of that, and so it was like 164 where I started last night, and I read to like 200 and something. Let me see if it shows my bookmark moments. No, it doesn't, but it was like 200 and something. And then, so it was not quite 100 pages, but it was like pretty close to 100 pages, is where I stopped last night. So from 200 and something, I read from there to the end just now over the last like hour, and I finished the book. So it wasn't that long from there that it came to the ending. So it was kind of like the aftermath of that. And then some things leading up to the final confrontation, which for me was very short. But I am not mad, because the middle section felt like the big climax to me, and then the aftermath of that with this little dramatic event at the end, and that still had the same concept that I told you about with the last two, where the pattern is the girl gets kidnapped, guy rescues girl, everything ends happy. That's the endings of these books and how the pattern works. It's not even spoilery to say that, because it's just how it works. But it was a little bit of a change up from that, and it was kind of different, but it still had that pattern to it. So I didn't hate it as much because of that. And again, the middle section feeling like the big climax that just had kind of a longer aftermath leading into that dramatic moment at the end. That's what made this one work better than the last one, because the last one had all the romance in the middle with a few suspenseful moments. And so that's why the ending felt more disappointing, because I was looking for that suspense that didn't happen. Whereas in this one, you already had that big chunk in the middle that actually kind of covered that. And so I can appreciate that. So I really, really enjoyed this book, Second Chance Serenity. The title for me is weird. I don't know. It's like Searching for Peace was book 2. And then, oh my gosh, I know the titles of these books. I can't think. Pages of Promise is book 1, and I rated that 4 stars. And I did feel like Searching for Peace, book 2, got better, but the ending was still disappointing, so that was 4.5 stars for me. And then book 3 is Second Chance Serenity, and that's this one. So honestly, my review's kind of short, but I didn't have too many complaints. Like for me, my big complaints are kind of the same ones that I've been doing for the series, which she's getting better at describing characters, but there's still moments where people will talk and she doesn't describe things very well. And it's like specific movements and descriptions that don't have, or specific movements and body language that don't have descriptions. Kind of like when somebody's injured, the injury specific pain or like movements or things like that aren't specifically described, but that's kind of been consistent with her books, and it's kind of like a minor thing because I'm kind of getting used to it, even though I don't like it. As with the other books, there were still editing mistakes that could have been fixed, and there's still continuity mistakes. So like if she has an editor, her editor's not catching the developmental edits, as I call them, because there's like one instance where they're talking about this new guy that's introduced named Silas, which I think is the one that I've been interested in, which is book 5, I think, and then book 4 4 is going to be the detective that joined their team. So now I know who the next 2 are. But anyways, they talk about how he has a niece, and in one of the scene it mentions that we need to go get his daughter, and I'm like, daughter, but I think that meant niece. So it's just little continuity things like that get changed up, that the editor didn't catch, which it may not be the author's fault, because we all miss stuff too, and sometimes we need editors to help us see stuff that we authors will miss because we're too close to the books. So her editor needs to do a better job at that, or she needs to get a better developmental editor. But I did mark down things like that. There were several moments where she has really good quotes, and she's a really good author, don't get me wrong. I was just pointing out the fact that like some of those developmental edits weren't caught, but she writes really well, and there were several moments where I got a lot of feels, and I had a lot of quotes from this book, and also I had a lot of quotes from the other books. So I may do a separate video for all my quotes, because in my past 2 reviews I forgot to go through all my quotes for the books, and so I may just keep taking notes and then go through all of my notes, my quotes, and favorite things in a whole separate video, since I really enjoy these books and stuff. So yeah, I caught that. So that was my first complaint, was just the editing not being as tight as it could be, the lack of description, and then the pattern at the ending, and the patterns with these books is getting repetitive. And then I recently talked with my cousin in our November TBR video, which by the time you guys are watching this, it'll be 2025, even though I'm reading this in November. This is my November TBR. Well, the first book was on my TBR list. I finished it for November, and so these are all bonus books because I'm apparently enjoying the series. So that'll be going on our channel for December of 2024, and these videos won't be going until sometime in 2025 because all my Mondays are taken up with other videos right now. But I'll have a link to our video here as a card if I can, and if I can find the video, because sometimes if it's a different channel you can't find it, and that's on our podcast channel now. So go subscribe to our book podcast where we talk about books like this together, and the full conversation is there, but it's really good. We talk about Christian fiction, and in quick summary, basically sometimes it just irks me with the perfect Christian kind of style of thing where, yes, we shouldn't glorify sin in our writing. That's not what I'm trying to say. But sometimes it's like the people don't do anything bad and they always end up acting perfect. And like the characters have flaws that they do overcome because there are character arcs in this. But it's just like the main concept in this one is vengeance belongs to the Lord. And it's like, not everybody is going to think like that. Not every Christian's going to think like that. And sometimes you just get angry. And sometimes especially when somebody's trying to hurt you and kill you, I can imagine that you would have feelings of taking that in your own hands. And Michael does struggle with that, but he immediately is like, no, vengeance belongs to God. And I feel like he doesn't do enough to work through that. And just all the time, the characters are like, if they have a bad thought or something like that, which doesn't happen very often, they just act so perfect. And that creates this higher standard that's like wrong, because the whole point of being Christians is that we aren't perfect and need a savior. And so they do have flaws, but they act like perfect Christians. And it's like, it's kind of weird, and it just grates me the wrong way. This series doesn't do it bad. I think I've probably read Christian fiction that does it worse. And that's probably why I don't read a whole lot of Christian fiction, to be honest, because it's just like all of it does it, as far as at least I know. If you know ones that don't, let me know in the comments below and recommend them. So this series doesn't do it bad, and that's why I can read it, is because it's not bad and it's not done too heavy-handed. It just pops in every once in a while. So that would be my only critiques, which isn't enough to really dock it too much. And so in the one hand, this is even better than book 1, and it's definitely better than book 2, because it's like book 1, again, Pages of Promise was 4 stars. Book 2, Searching for Peace, was 4.5 stars, and this was it was much better than the last book, which was 4.5 stars. So now I don't know what to rate this star, because I still feel like it's not quite a 5-star read yet, but I can't really especially like on Amazon and Goodreads and those places, I can't rate it a weird rating. But for me, I'm going to rate this book I would definitely say this is like 4.75 stars, because it's in between 4.5 and 5 stars for me. It's not quite a 5-star read yet. So I would say my legit rating for this book is going to be 4.75 stars, because it's not quite a 5-star read yet, but it's much better than the 4.5-star read of the second book. So I don't know. But I can't rate that on the rating places, so I don't know what I'm going to say. So yeah, that's my honest review of Second Chance Serenity by Jessica Ashley. And it is a really good book, so I highly recommend it, and I'll have a link in the description below for you guys to check it out. They're a series of standalones, so I chose to read them in order. You guys don't have to. The series can be read standalone, and it does kind of include the other previous couples. So I mean, it would have spoils, but it's a romance series, so you know the characters are going to get together, so it shouldn't really surprise you that much. So yeah, but this is pretty much my thoughts on the series. I'm definitely going to try reading the next one and see how that goes, because with this one I was like, oh, I'm not invested in this couple and I'm not going to like the book, and I really did enjoy it, and I enjoy it the most out of all of the books in the series I've read so far. But yeah, let me know what you think if you read this series, and let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't read the books, then please go check them out, because they're clean, they're not spicy, they're Christian, and they're still suspenseful. And if you don't like romance, then you will probably still like these romances, because they have emotional weight and substance behind there. So there is like emotional weight and substance there. This one did get a little, oh, I'm attracted to him kind of vibe, and so it didn't get too heavy-handed in it. But you see the characters kind of work through their issues, so it was just kind of like a minor thing. But yeah, go check them out. Link will be in the description below. Shout out to Jessica Ashley. I really do enjoy her as an author. I think she needs a better editor. And Jessica Ashley, if you're ever in the market for an editor, hit me up. I will gladly help you. But yeah, so if you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you liked my review of Second Chance Serenity, then check out my review of the first book in the series, which was Pages of Promise. Check that out. It was a 4-star read, but I give you all the details of why it was a 4-star read in that video, so check it out. You don't want to miss it.